So if we looked at that healthy end and we put a very, very simple definition to it, saying that in a healthy relationship, largely we are looking at partners that are both striving to maintain equality, a 50-50 sharing of, uh, of the relationship. As we move towards an unhealthy relationship, what we're going to start to see are behaviors and comments and nonverbal and verbal communication that tries to, where one partner tries very much to gain control, to take control, to be in charge, to press the fact that their agenda is a little more relevant or important than yours. And of course, when we move into the abusive category, then we are looking at total, complete loss of control of one's relationship. One partner has all the control, makes all the decisions. If the other partner is allowed to make a decision, it is only because the controlling partner has given them permission. Those are three separate stances. Now, I understand there's lots of gray areas in between, but essentially, all the behaviors, all the interactions are going to reflect that kind of style, the healthy, the unhealthy, or the abusive. Now, the interesting thing is that a healthy relationship can move into unhealthy zones. It can happen a lot. It can happen frequently. But that unhealthy relationship can also move back. We can go back and forth as the relationship grows and becomes more mature and ultimately more healthy. But if that relationship contains too much of the unhealthy and the unhealthy becomes unworkable, that relationship will definitely move towards abusive. Without change, without intervention, without attention, that unhealthy relationship will continue to move in the spectrum towards abusive. Abusive relationships do not go back and forth. Once power is obtained, it is maintained at any cost. So there's the simple 3-point scale: unhealthy, healthy, abusive. Now, if we took that 3-point scale and tried to come up with something that was very everyday, really common to our thinking, to almost a universal symbol of behavior. And we took that 3-point, that healthy, unhealthy, and abusive, and we looked at it like a stoplight. A simple, everyday, universally accepted and recognized stoplight, where green reminds us that we can proceed. It's a healthy relationship. An amber or a yellow light, we all know from our driving experience or pedestrian experience, it means to proceed with caution, to be observant, to be alert, to be aware. And we all know that red is a full stop. There's no moving forward. Full stop. So we have that concept of signs being extremely important, and that one's so ingrained in our heads. If we could look at relationships, romantic relationships, friendship relationships, using that 3-point scale, we might be able to we might be able to explain and find a lot of information about relationships. So I'm going to walk through it a bit with you, test it a bit. And we're going to take a look at a couple of very basic and typical aspects of any relationship, all people's relationships, new, young, beginning. And we're going to take some of those qualities. Let's begin with the quality of individuality. A relationship is the coming together of two individuals. In a healthy relationship, a green light, we're going to see individuality being something that's respected, something that's admired, encouraged, personal space. You have time that is your time, and your partner has time that's their time. And we respect that in each other. We respect their need for being with friends. We respect their need for being with family. We respect their need for being with each other. It's a 50-50. It's a green light. So if we then take a look at individuality with a yellow light, with a caution, what we're going to see is someone who begins to pressure your individuality, wants more of your time, more of your space, wants to know where you are, who you're with, where you're going, why you're not always out with them. That would be the kind of behaviors and comments and body language that you would be picking up. If we move that same aspect of individuality and we looked at red light or abusive behavior, well, you would see all control is gone. There is no personal space. You need permission. You need permission to attend things. You need permission to go places. You need permission to be with family. Your partner owns your time and your personal space. You've lost it. So that's looking at one very typical aspect and putting it under the headlight of, or the magnifying glass of the three ways to look at relationships. Let's try another. Let's try decision making. Decision making is a part of every couple, every relationship. We have to make decisions. Okay, some are simple, straightforward, and some are a little more challenging. Let's take a simple one. Pizza or subs? What do we have for lunch? Healthy relationship. Remember the key, 50-50. You're going to hear words like, what do you think? What do you feel like? Well, how about, would you mind if? You're going to see partners checking in with each other, 50-50. If it's yellow, if it's unhealthy, you're going to see the person using tactics to get their way. I want a pizza. You always get your way. Why do you always get to pick? All those kinds of blaming, manipulating the situation. Well, we'll be late if we go to the other place. We need to go this place. I want this to happen. I want to have this pizza today. So you see the difference in the language, the difference in the communication that's happening. Now move it over one more, and the simple decision isn't a decision. In an abusive relationship, remember, no control. One partner simply states what it will be. Let's take a serious decision-making process. How about to up the ante for sexual intimacy? What would that decision, what would that discussion, that conversation look like in a healthy relationship? 50-50. Couple, two people strive for 50-50. You're going to hear and see comments that indicate a 50-50 decision. Would you be comfortable with? What if we were to, what do you think about, do you think that? you're going to see a partner checking in. You're going to see consent. You're going to see a consensual decision and outcome of that decision. Now, how about sexual intimacy for someone who is in an unhealthy relationship? What are we going to see? What's the language going to be like? What's the conversation going to be like? We're going to see a lot of tactics. Remember, the unhealthy relationship seeks control. It wants to move from the 50-50. They'll take 60-40, they'll take 70-30, but they want to move the meter. So you're going to see things like harassing comments, challenging comments, why not? Everybody else does. Something's wrong with you. You must be a cold person. You're getting blame. You're getting all sorts of manipulative, coercive behaviors to alter your behavior, perhaps into something you're not comfortable with. Those types of conversations, that badgering, not taking no for an answer, I'm sure one partner would say, no, not here, not tonight. I really, I'm not comfortable. And then that badgering and badgering, why not? Give me explanations. Those kinds of things are the very things that one would call harassing behavior, the seeking of control. It is unhealthy. Then we move to the final position on moving the level of sexual intimacy. Consent is not relevant. Again, control takes charge. Any act of sexual intimacy in an abusive and controlling relationship takes. It does not require your permission or your decisions. So we could take all sorts of aspects of relationships and run them through this. In the green, in the healthy, you're looking at two people that work. They're constantly working and striving to keep it balanced, to keep things at a 50-50 level, equality in the partnership. And then the yellow, the unhealthy, always striving, one partner always striving to gain more control. And in the abusive situation, what we see is the loss of all control. So it is possible to get practice, using these terms, using this scale, this stoplight, to be able to detect that kind of behavior, those kinds of comments, those kinds of nonverbal communications. I think it is very important, in order to be good at that, to start identifying the type of language that would be used, the kind of nonverbal body stances that would be stepping forward, and just getting quick and good at this. So I would suggest at this point that this would be a good opportunity for groups of people to try to identify the kind of language, the kind of conversation, the kind of verbs, the kind of phrases or stances, verbally, non-verbally, that they would be hearing and seeing, observing and hearing, if they were involved in the following. So I would ask that one group would choose this as an abusive relationship, red behaviors, behaviors where we are looking at complete control of the other partner. And the scenario or the situation is the couple have been asked to attend a school party with friends of theirs, and how that decision, what kind of language would we be hearing between that couple? it's an expected pause here, just to be able to break in order to do that if you were taking part in that. My second example, well, hopefully, what we would be looking at in that scenario would be a lot of very strong language. Body language would be arms crossed, no discussion, nothing open about how they're presenting. The decision is final, the decision is made. If the partner is allowed to ask questions or make suggestions, they would be just immediately shut down. The decision is solely and totally in the hands of the controlling individual in the relationship. Okay, let's try recognizing and identifying language and nonverbal or behaviors that we would tend to see with a couple who would be making a decision, trying to decide on what video they want to watch, either going out to a theater or simply watching at home, or choosing something that they're going to be watching at home. So hopefully your group would have come back with comments that reflect perhaps blaming the individual for not letting them have the reason or have the decision in their favor. You could be looking at insulting behavior. You always pick terrible movies. Remember the last one. Although any behavior like that would be pushing the envelope so that the person would be getting their way. So that would be the answers that you would be looking at if you were looking at a couple making a decision with unhealthy behaviors, yellow light. Finally, let's take time as a group to look at what kind of language, what kind of conversation, what kind of behaviors we would be expecting to hear or see, experience, if we were in a healthy relationship, a green light, a proceed. In this kind of relationship, we would be looking for any kind of agenda that would represent a sharing, an idea or an attitude of 50-50 in terms of how they deal with things. And the scenario that we're going to look at for the healthy relationship is probably the most challenging, and it is going to be the confrontation of one of the people, one of the people in the relationship confronts their partner with a discovered lie. Okay, so they have come across the fact that their partner has told a lie, and this would be the conversation or the confrontation that would take place with a healthy relationship. So take a few minutes and discuss what kind of things we would expect to see from a healthy relationship dealing with that kind of a scenario. Okay, so hopefully this would be not too difficult. The situation is kind of challenging, but hopefully it wouldn't be too difficult, because what we would be looking for would be behaviors and comments, conversation that would be respectful and would be open and listening and would move in that direction. So they wouldn't be challenging, they wouldn't be accusatory. The nonverbal Body cues would be more open. They would show more understanding. They would be listening, an active listener, as opposed to thinking of what to say next. The partner would be offered the opportunity to explain themselves and therefore to hopefully that couple would be able to work through that. But if not, they would be able to simply say that. With all of that happened, the decision may be that no, I can't accept that. I'm sorry. So we could go on and on with different scenarios and take that very, very simple 3-point scale, that stoplight, that spectrum of healthy versus unhealthy versus abusive, and see it always simply as striving to gain 50-50 and to maintain it, because it's always a struggle. You don't get there and then have it forever. There's always a struggle and a striving to keep 50-50. In an unhealthy, you have that constant move by the one partner for control and taking over. And then to abusive, it's gone to one partner. That partner is no longer interested in anything that the other person wants, needs, asks for, or hopes for in terms of building a relationship and a future together. It was perhaps a little difficult to work on a concept of barriers. What would be the barriers? What would be the difficulties of a person to be able to use such a simplified scale when speaking about their relationship or the relationship of a friend? And I think when I give it thought, I'm not sure what you've come up with, but when I give it thought, I find that the most difficult barrier would be that this this would take a little bit of time. We need to have enough interactions with the person in our relationship to be able to sense that scale of, are we both working equally? Are we both working and respecting each other's needs and each other's hopes for what we would like in a relationship? Or the other barrier or worry about using that scale is that some people are very good at using the mask of green good behaviors. How many are excellent at compliments? What I would hope one would feel would be a little over the top, but people can be extremely good at disguising their true feelings and saying what they think a partner or a person that they are hoping to date would want to hear. That's a more difficult challenge because you are looking at cues that are apparent. This person does not seem to be trying to take control. They don't seem to be moving towards that unhealthy position, but yet it's difficult to know and trust the behaviors that you're seeing in that healthy tone, in that open, nonverbal behavior. So we can take a look at that idea of too good to be true, too much too fast, recognizing a line that's insincere. Those would be things. And finally, I think in any relationship, there's an aspect of trusting your gut. When you go home after being out on a date with your partner, and somehow you're coming back feeling upset, feeling disrespected or misunderstood, angry, angry that something happened, that you didn't stand up for yourself, or you didn't iron out or get more feedback on something that happened. When you have that gut feeling that something isn't right, that's a perfect time to take that situation and other examples of your relationship and to examine them. Are they more examples of a couple that are working towards a 50-50 equality, of a sharing, respectful relationship? Or are we looking at a relationship that's moving more and more towards that unhealthy, that middle in the stoplight of one partner taking more control? Even if the other partner is pushing the control on that person, it isn't a healthy position. It is not striving towards equality. It's striving towards one person being more powerful, more controlling. And then finally, moving to the end, to the red, to the stop, to the abusive behaviors. That's what you would need to take a look at. When you come back from that date or that time that you spent with your partner, and you have some gut feeling that's not comfortable, that's the time to look at that scale. That's the time to take it out and to give thought in these very basic categories. You can help a friend with that. You can help a friend with their insight, with things that you see that perhaps they are not, but we need to be respectful and we need to be listening. So I'm going to conclude with this discussion. I would like to thank neighbors, family, and friends for inviting me to be a part of their series on spreading awareness for prevention and developing strategies to help individuals maintain and establish healthy relationships and avoid unhealthy relationships, and definitely to avoid abusive relationships where all control is lost to the other partner. I would like to wish you all a very safe and happy summer. And always remember to trust your gut and your instincts, and to examine those that are close to you in their behaviors, and recognize behaviors and how we can be better partners